Hello and welcome back to the Motorworks and More podcast. I'm your host Logan, and tonight I got a couple guest stars, William Queen.
Hello.
And Drake Bolin.
Hi.
And tonight on this episode, we're definitely not really going to be talking about anything Motorworks related, but we're going to dive into the first-person shooter realm. So a good starting point for the night, what's your guys' favorite first-person shooters?
My favorite first-person shooter really has to be either Halo Reach or Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
My favorite first-person shooter is Doom Eternal.
I like to stick with the newer games. My personal favorite first-person shooter at the moment would probably have to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the newest one that they released, because, there's like 4 of them. But tonight, I think we're going to talk about on this episode the Doom series games, going back from the older Nintendo 64, is that where they started?
I'm not sure. I believe it's just started as a PC game, but there is Doom 64. So yeah, as I said, my favorite first-person shooter is Doom Eternal.
Great
Doom
game
itself is the first-person shooter, first-person shooter, funny phrase, first. Anyway, as I said, I believe it just started on the PC, and it revolutionized gaming. Like, there were a bunch of first-person shooters and Doom clones, such as Wolfenstein, which is another series that still gets new releases to this day. And then I believe Doom 64, Doom 2, and the much maligned Doom 3, which went less into the first-person shooter side of the thing, and more into a survival horror. And then the gods smiled upon us in 2016, and Doom 2016 was released. Doom 2016 is no longer one of my favorite games of all time because it is just an inferior Doom Eternal, but without it, I would not really care about Doom at all. It's got such good gunplay. I like the story. The story is actually pretty fun, and there's just so much enemy variety and weapons. The weapons are all really cool. I think in the first game there's shotgun, super shotgun, plasma pistol, which they got rid of in Doom Eternal. What else is there? A machine gun, because why not? A plasma rifle, Gauss cannon, and the BFG, which I cannot say the real name of for school appropriate reasons. And yeah, it's a pretty good game. And then I believe, when was Doom Eternal released? Was that 2019?
2020, I believe.
Yeah, Doom.
somewhere around that time frame.
2019, 2020, somewhere around there. Doom Eternal was released, and it is literally just better in every way. The guns are all better. Like, it gives you a reason to use all the guns, whereas before, once you get the super shotgun, you pretty much stick to that, unless there's like some fringe cases where you deviate from that. Maybe you use the machine gun because you ran out of super shotgun ammo, or use the Gatling gun because you ran out of super shotgun ammo, or you use the plasma gun because you ran out of super shotgun ammo. But now you actually have reasons to use things that aren't the super shotgun, which also got upgraded. It's not like they just degraded the super shotgun so that you give more attention to things. They did this by giving enemies weak points, like the Revenant, is that what it's called? The dude with the guns on his shoulder?
Yeah.
The Revenant has, as I said, 2 guns on his shoulder, and you can blow these off with either, I think, a sticky grenade, which you shoot out from your normal shotgun, or from a sniper shot, I think, from your heavy machine gun. And they do this with Keiko demons, which used to be big bad guys that you only met in the beginning of Doom 2016. But now they're left and right, and you're just popping a grenade in its mouth and then stabbing it.
Using its Doom guy's execution, basically.
The executions are, again, amazing, like everything else in Doom. They're kind of like a quick time event, you pop by them and do the thing.
It's really helpful whenever you're like low on health and shield, because it gives you health and shield whenever you use those executions, and it's just very useful to have. As well as the chainsaw. The chainsaw is definitely very helpful. The game wants you to switch weapons and stuff, and to do this, it does things like that to incentivize you.
Yeah.
By giving you a limited supply of ammo, but it never felt like I ran out. It always felt like I had just enough chainsaw or flamethrower to get the job done and shoot grenades.
So just to give a little bit of context for some people that might be lost in this. So Doom is a game where you play as a character that is a demon slayer, literally. Like, your enemies in this game are demons, and your goal of the game is to not die. And it's very satisfying. It means that the game is very gory, if you will.
Very
blast
very gory.
really loud, aggressive metal music in your ears, which is awesome.
The
Don't
gore
get
in
me
the
wrong.
metal. Oh my god. The gore in that game, every shot you take feels like it has an impact. Because you're blowing chunks off of something. they ain't happy.
We could probably go on about in a whole episode just about the graphics, if I'm
Graphics
honest.
are super, although they did one thing. The explosion graphics are slightly worse than in Doom 2016. If you
Really?
if you put it in slow-mo, you'll notice that the explosions just have slightly less detail on them. Which I just thought was really funny, that pretty much everything else looked better, but the explosions are like, okay, we're like this now.
I played a lot of Doom Eternal over quarantine last year, which I never did complete it. I think I got about 50% through, and I probably clocked about 12 hours in the game. It's a long game, but it is well worth it if you have the time to sit down and play through the whole thing. I haven't done the whole thing, but if your experience is half as good as mine, you're gonna enjoy it.
That's probably my biggest criticism of Doom Eternal, is that
A little too lengthy.
it's not even that, it's that there's no break from just the, like, high-octane shooting demons and blowing them up. It's just that for the whole game.
Yeah.
So either they have to shorten it, or throw things in the middle.
Yeah.
But I don't think, oh man, the game's too much of the really cool thing is a big, like, criticism that I could...
I mean, I love the game. I just can't really necessarily sit down and do the same thing for so long. I mean,
Yeah.
give me a little bit of story, or... I mean,
Yeah.
especially since it's a Bethesda game. I mean, they're really good with having long stories. If you've played
Definitely.
anything like Fallout or Skyrim, you're going to be playing that religiously for a while. Because of it's so much story and lore. Just give us a little bit of that in the Doom games. I know that Bethesda kind of used Doom as the escape from that,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, because, I mean, you don't necessarily want to do one thing and one thing only as a developer,
Yeah.
because that could get old. But give us a little more, or shorten it just a little bit, so it's not necessarily just throwing that down your throat.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, with Doom Eternal and what Bethesda did with, like, the backgrounds of, like, each scene, it's just, like, either some big old monster or some robot. It's just, the backgrounds were always the coolest thing
Yeah.
The backgrounds are actually really good. Like, you'll just look off in the distance, or it's like... I remember a snowy part of the game, or like you said, a big demon just walking across the screen. I'm
Yeah.
like, can I shoot that?
Yeah. Which is kind of disappointing sometimes, because they don't like, you can't interact with things like that. Which that's the next level gaming idea. If anybody that develops things is listening, make a big world like RPG, but everything is interactable in some way or another.
I think, actually, in the update, you can go fight the big demons in, like,
That would be cool.
a demon slayer mech robot thing, but that's just what I think. I haven't actually played any of the DLC.
Yeah.
That would be really cool if you could do that, though.
So, besides the just constant same thing, although it's a great same thing,
The parkour adding from 2016
Yeah,
I
to
actually love
2020.
it. I actually really, like, that's a good way to actually break up all the violent actions you take
The
throughout the game.
parkour.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still going to be violent, but in a different way.
It's also really good in combat to just be zipping around.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, one of the only first-person games where I thought they had decent platforming that wasn't just a pain in the butt to get through.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that is the kind of cool point, because that gives you a little bit of a break. If you played it like I did, I didn't necessarily just have constant fights. I would clear a section out, and then I would focus on, like, the puzzle of it, because it would give you puzzles that you had to kind of get through in a certain way.
And collectibles to find throughout the map, too.
And that, too. I kind of focused on that, because you had different, like, music discs, stuff like that to find.
Cheat codes are unlockable. which
Yes.
I like because not a lot of games do cheat codes anymore, which is
No.
kind of a shame.
I mean, it's cool, but I'm the kind of person to find things like that, use way too many of them, and then it ruins the entire game for me.
Yeah.
Especially, like, Red Dead Redemption, when I played that, I played through the entire thing with cheat codes, and it just kind of ruined the game for me.
Oh, okay, so speaking of Doom and cheat codes, there's this game called Rage 2, which I have heard is
I've never
just
played it. but I've
open
heard of
world Doom. And like in Doom, you can find cheat codes, and one of them is so you have the announcer for, I think, some game called NBA Slam 2 or something like that, and he'll just be shouting while you're killing things like, "You're on fire, kid! Look at you go!"
it. That'd be great.
One thing I do like about Doom Eternal is it does give you a break at some parts whenever you're in the Doom spaceship.
Yeah, and you can just look around the
yeah.
ship for like cool stuff that's in there.
Like different plushies and the books that
Yeah.
Doom
And
guy
there's
has.
a guitar on like the
Yeah.
side of the wall that's like got plasma stuff
Yeah.
to make it up.
I do like that aspect, how it gives you somewhat of a break between all the violence and platforming and stuff like that.
I like a lot of the like joke moments within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like one section, there's this guy named Samuel Hayden who was not the big bad guy in the last game, but they were setting him up to be the big bad guy in Doom Eternal. Anyway, he gets like torn in half in like the first 10 minutes, and then you bring him back on your ship to like do stuff for you. Anyway, he says you can't. There's this one moment where you're about to blow a hole into the surface of Mars, and he says you can't just blow a hole into the surface of Mars. And then guess what you do?
You do exactly
blow a
what he
hole.
said you can.
You
That
blow
was
a
the
hole
last mission I played in the game that I
into the
remember.
surface of Mars. I lost it. I could not stop laughing for like 5 minutes because he's like, boop, presses the button and then
Yeah,
and then-
bang. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We're going to do a little 3-part series on this being episode 1. I do believe our next episode we're going to talk about Call of Duty, so make sure to tune into that. I believe I'm going to upload all 3 of these at short notices, so if you're listening to this one and you got another 20 minutes or so, make sure to tune into the other 2, and we'll see you guys there. Peace.
Peace.